a scrappy little nerd. Isha's just a pretty rich boy. But I think they'd get along.
He's an iPad kid. He is absolutely. He's literally that's his whole introduction.
Zotian, check out this new YouTuber. Welcome to Mortified, the Friendship Quest, a podcast where two long-distance friends bounce media recommendations, all in hopes the other will like it. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Feral.
And this week, we talk mechas and love triangles with the 2021 science fantasy novel Iron Widow. Before we draw 100 inevitable comparisons to the Poppy War, remember you can help us on Mortified the Legitimacy Quest by subscribing to us on YouTube, iTunes, or Spotify, signing up for a monthly newsletter through the link in our show notes, or following us on Twitter and Tumblr at MortifiedPod. Leyla.
Aaron.
We just love talking about mechs, don't we?
Ah, God, we fucking love mechs, dude. Especially if those mechs are powered by love. Mwah!
Yeah. I mean, even last week we talked about big god mechas in Xenosaga 3, famously Pacific Rim. We both enjoyed very much. But now we are combining my favorite book, the Poppy War, with the Pacific Rim, mecha style, partner mech shit, with author Xiran Jay Zhao's debut novel, Iron Widow. It's how'd you feel about it?
I needed like an hour of calm down time between finishing it this morning and now. I needed to chill out, and we'll talk about why.
Excellent. Good. And with that stunning review, let's just do the plot summary. So, Iron Widow takes place in the land of Wuxia, which is basically like fantasy medieval China. And basically the government is like very oppressive and very patriarchal, and they have to fight big robot alien bugs called the Windwinds. And basically the way that they do that is with these big mechas, which they call chrysalises. And in order to pilot a chrysalis, you need two people, a man and a woman. And basically, like the vast majority of the time, when a man pilots a chrysalis, it kills the woman partner because of, their chi being too powerful, their spirit pressure. And so, like, there's a system where you sign up to be, a concubine, quote unquote, basically the female pilot of a male, with a male pilot, and basically you accept that you're going to be killed. And this book starts with the sister of the protagonist dying in one of these chrysalises, killed by a shitty pilot guy, and that's how we meet Wu Zotian. Zotian is basically like kind of a spitfire, like very sick of all this patriarchal bullshit, and signs up to be a concubine pilot in order to get close to the guy who killed her sister so she can actually kill him, and that would be pretty chill, she thinks. But her best friend, Yizhi, is like this pretty rich boy who is in love with her, doesn't want her to go, but she goes anyway. Basically, she goes, she drives in the chrysalis, she meets the guy, and for a second she's like, oh, maybe he's not so bad, but then he turns out to be a real jerk. So she overpowers him, takes over the chrysalis from the inside, and kills him. And then she drives the chrysalis, and everybody in the Wuxia government is like, that poses a problem. So they pair her with Li Shiming, known as the Iron Demon, who is also, like, these are all like 18, 19-year-olds for the record. We love a teenage mecha pilot. But like Shiming is called the Iron Demon because he murdered his whole family. And they force him to drive the Vermilion Bird, which is like the biggest, scariest mech ever. And he's like the strongest person ever since the Great Emperor, basically. And they're like, okay, yeah, the Iron Demon's gonna kill this lady. But he doesn't. and they like become partners, and they sort of fall in love. But also, her pretty boy rich friend Yizhi shows up, and he like acts as their strategist and coach, kind of, and they start working together in order to kill the aliens and also overthrow the government because the government is bad. And basically, they start working together. There's a lot of like gay vibes between Yizhi and Shiming, but also Zotian is in love with Yizhi and Shiming, and she's like, that sucks. I wish that I didn't have to choose between these two boys. And then she doesn't. She chooses both. And that's where we get, at the very end, they all team up. They overthrow the government. And there's like this big battle at the very end where they're going to kill the final Win-Win, like not the final Win-Win, but like one of the biggest ones that like overthrew like this province that Zotian used to live in. And I don't know if she used to live in that province actually, but anyway, point is,
it's the province her ancestors are from.
Yes, thank you. But she gets ambushed by a bunch of other mech pilots that are like pro-government, and they're like, we got to take you out. So Shiming sacrifices himself and fights, drives the Vermilion Bird alone. And Zotian, in her desperation, finds the legendary emperor, who has been like sitting in a volcano, I want to say, for like 5,000 years. Anyway, she wakes him up. He's got a big mech there. She's like, all right, idiot, get in the girl's seat. Because it turns out the reason that women have been being sacrificed is because they power down the girls' seats in the mechs. So that way, like either way, because like men and women, actually their spirit pressures are about the same. But because this is a misogynistic and patriarchal society, they're like, oh, we would rather keep the boys around than the women. So they power the women's seats down, so that way they're more likely to die in this like mecha thing, which sucks. So she makes him sit in that. She sits in the boys' chair. She drives the big dragon. She kills the Win-Wins, and then she goes and takes over the government, which is very funny. She and Yizhi take over the government. And at the very end, she becomes the Iron Empress or whatever, and it's revealed that they were actually not on Earth the whole time. They were on a different planet, and the Win-Wins were actually aliens, and humans were the colonizers, and are bad. And also, Shiming's actually alive and being held by the Heavenly Council. That bit's weird. We'll talk about the end in a bit, but yeah, that's how Iron Widow. That's the story of Iron Widow. Yeah.
It's not even that the girls' seats are powered down. It's that the women's seats take a passive absorption of ki, so that they are not even really piloting the fucking mech. They are batteries for the men, and the only way a woman will survive an encounter is if she is stronger than the man in the pilot's seat.
Yeah. It's a bad, the government bad.
That is some real shit, unfortunately, but it is also some fucked shit.
It's evil Pacific Rim, basically. But like, obviously that comes from, the, recent iterations in I say recent, I mean like the 20th century, one-child policy and the ways in which, I'm going to say Chinese, but like, we live in a society that's still wildly, wildly patriarchal across the world. So, all societies are, do not value their women as highly as their men, unfortunately. So like that's where that comes from, and you can definitely tell that the author is a little bit upset about that, you could say.
Misogyny is universal. Like the details of the ways in which Zotian experienced misogyny are very specific, right? The binding of the feet, that sense of betrayal that like her grandmother was the person who bound her feet when she was 5 for the first time, and now it's like walking on knives every time she walks. But it's a pain that she's so used to that it really almost never gets brought up other than being introduced. It's just the way she lives. And, there's some other, like, culturally specific and kind of universe-specific ways in which she experiences sexism. But, like, page for page, I relate to almost everything Zetian has gone through. It is an experience that is so specifically close to shit people have said to me and shit people have done to me and corners I've been forced into that every page I was like, no, be gay, do crimes. This is what you deserve. Finally, snap. You deserve to... Somebody called her an unhinged bitch, and I was like, exactly. Wouldn't you be? Wouldn't you go ape shit if this was you? Anyway, let's talk about Zetian. I love her.
Why don't you read the character descriptor on Xiran Jay Zhao's website?
Inspired by the historical Wu Zetian, the only female emperor in Chinese history, pilot of various mecha, ain't nothing to fuck with, uses a cane or wheelchair because foot binding, parentheses, a creative liberty for thematic reasons, comma, not historically accurate, didn't get any sleep because of the patriarchy not gonna get any sleep because of her, looks like she could kill you, would actually kill you.
Yeah, no, the entire time I was reading this, I was like, oh, this is Rin from Poppy War. Like, this is, a young woman who has been abused by historical and, patriarchal and class-based, hierarchies, and is like, oh, now that I have power, I will use this power to hurt people, and is very thrilled about that. And I loved Rin in the Poppy War. I love Zetian here in Iron Widow. I think we need more villain protagonists. That's why I write books with them.
Yeah, I don't know if I would draw that direct of a parallel to Rin from the Poppy War, only because Rin from the Poppy War makes strategic, terrible decisions. Zetian throws spaghetti at a wall and then goes, oh, that didn't work? Okay, we're trying this other thing now. Whoopsie doops. Oh, you mean walking up to the most powerful princess general in the army didn't work because she's jealous that her boyfriend wants to fuck me? Oopsie doops. Okay, new plan. We're gonna do a different thing now. I'm gonna talk to my boyfriend's dad. Yeah, that should work. She's just a lot more Rin is chaotic, destructive. Zetian is just chaotic.
Yeah, no, but I do love, I think that you can tell that Zetian is a little bit less experienced, even though those two protagonists are about the same age. You can definitely tell that Zetian is really just kind of like grasping at vines and just swinging wherever. Especially in like the first scene when she's like, oh, I don't know why I'm in this like yin yang realm, but I can see through this pilot's memories. I can see that he did his weird shit to like all the other girls that he's killed. What if I just fucking stab him to death? I guess I'm piloting the Nine-Tailed Fox now. This is wild. And then like she does the thing that's like, I am your nightmare, in front of like the whole like media, and it's like, I understand the vibes are immaculate, but girl.
She's just a cringy little goth.
Yeah, exactly. It's really
and
funny.
You have to respect it. She's living her truth.
Yes.
Yizhi, my angel. I mean, is he an angel? I don't know. I think
he's got those tattoos. Crime. What does that mean?
I don't know.
We'll find out in book 2, coming out spring 2023. But yeah, I mean, like, what Yizhi is like, there's a lot of focus on his skincare routine, which is very funny.
Babe, drop the routine. He's got a 4-step lip exfoliating routine, which I think is very funny because I don't know if you know this about me. I used to be deep into beauty YouTube.
Really?
Like I used to bottom lash mascara was something that used to be on like my wish list. I had drawers of makeup. It was untenable, actually. It was quite a lot. And to this day, like a lot of my female presenting friends or my friends who are interested in cosmetics, it will still go to me for advice, and I can still kind of whip out that knowledge. But like when I read 4-step lip exfoliating routine, I went right back to that brain, and I was like, babe, you only need the 2. Exfoliate, moisturize. That's all you need. 4 is a lot, sweetheart. You're just doing it for fun now. But there's a really good moment where Shiming is talking to Zetian. She's like, well, what do you think of Isha? And he goes, he's really nice, and he's really kind, and really strong, and his skin is just so porcelain. Like, what? How does he do? And I was like, babe, exactly. How do you do it? Drop the routine. What moisturizers are we using? What combination of exfoliants? Are we doing chemical? Are we doing physical? Are we doing a combo of both? Are there AHAs, BHAs? What's up? Drop the routine. And I mean, we'll see. Maybe it'll be an extra in book 2.
For me, this is who's Rin's nerdy little friend in Poppy War?
Kite, my love.
Kite, yes. This is same like nerdy little. Kite's a little bit more of a scrappy little nerd. Isha's just a pretty rich boy. But I think they'd get along.
He's an iPad kid. He is absolutely. He's literally that's his whole introduction.
Zotian, check out this new YouTuber. Yeah, no, that's his whole deal. But like, he has a really shitty dad, and like it's hinted that he has like a weird crime family background, and like none of it's explained. But I like him.
He's basically like the good son of like a Rupert Murdoch.
Yeah.
That's I would feel comfortable driving that.
I don't know who Rupert Murdoch is. I know I've heard the name, but I don't know who he is.
A Republican media mogul.
Oh, gross.
Yeah. Whatchamacallit? I love to live in the universe where Zetian just ruins his YouTube algorithm.
Yeah, it's just like, I wanted to get more skincare recommendations. This is all like, what is patriarchy? What is gender transition? Like, it's
aggressive boxing videos, self-defense, how to make a shank out of a hairpin.
Exactly. And of course, we get our Iron Demon, Li Shiming, who he's actually more like Kite in that he's just a big idiot he's like a nerd, but like I don't know. I guess he's not like Kite at all, right? I don't want to draw too many Poppy War comparisons, actually, but like he's a big nerd, but like he is made to present as very scary and terrifying because of his backstory, and I love him so much.
He's not a nerd. He's an art school hoe.
Excuse me?
It's a very specific type of nerd. He's an art school hoe. He does beautiful calligraphy.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that shit. Yeah.
Studies between his boxing matches. The boy's got an aesthetic, all right? I think my favorite descriptor of him is when he gets his glasses back, which are described as like thick Coke bottle glasses because bitch is blind. Zotian's just like watching him, and she's like, for the first time, he's not scowling. And then she thinks about it for a second. She goes, oh my God, he was never scowling. He was squinting because he's blind.
It's really funny. And the reason that they took away his glasses is, of course, because he shattered them and used the shards to murder people, which is extremely cool. We love Shiming.
And that feral quality is also what makes him an art school hoe.
Yes, I suppose you would know. But yeah, no, I mean, I really like Shiming. I really like the, like, he is immediately, like, down for Zotian in a way that is very both endearing, and, like, makes good character motivations. Like, he is immediately like, this is somebody I need to protect. This is somebody that, I don't know that he gets around to, like, I am in love with Zotian, for at least the first, half of the book. But, like, he like there's like other pilots who are talking shit about her, and he immediately starts like this big brawl in the lunchroom, and it takes like 6 grown men to hold him down, which I love. And then like Zotian helps out by like shooting a laser blast out of her arm at like one of the shitty guys who's about to kill him. And then the guy looks at her like, what? And she's like, I didn't do anything. Or it's really good.
No, that whole scene is excellent. She also throws a lunch tray, I think.
Yes.
So I do need to read you the descriptions for Yizhi and for Shimin.
Yes, please.
Yizhi's is inspired by a variety of the historical Empress Wu's pretty boy lovers because she had like 5 of the same type. I'm not about to fill a duology with that many twinks.
Wow.
Doesn't pilot anything. He's just there. Bisexual legend. Superpower is being rich. Looks like a cinnamon roll. Would actually gleefully kill you. And for Shimin, it's inspired by Emperor Taizong of Tang. But his descriptor has nerdy glasses bolded. So for all you fan artists, do not include those unless he is squinting and scowling, in which case that's accurate characterization also. Pilot of the Vermilion Bird, because his historical counterpart once wrote a poem flexing about how he was a soaring phoenix. Literal death row inmate, has to wear the ultimate fashion faux pas of orange jumpsuits. Bisexual beginner, looks like he could kill you, would indeed kill you, but would feel like really bad about it.
Exactly. I should also know Shimin is biracial, right? I don't remember the exact words, but my understanding is he's like the equivalent of half Chinese, half Mongol, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
That was the impression I got.
Biracial king.
Yes, we stand a biracial king. So shouts to Shimin. It's hard to pick a favorite out of these 3. They're actually all pretty great now that I'm remembering. For context, I listened to the audiobook like 2 months ago, so I'm a little bit rustier than Leyla.
They're also all my favorite. I cannot pick a favorite. You cannot make me, even though I relate to Zotian with every fiber of my old and exhausted being.
Let's talk about some other characters that don't have quite good descriptions, but basically very few other characters don't suck. I guess there's like the pilot. There's like 1 or 2 other pilot like pairs that are actually pretty cool. But, like, everybody else is basically constantly trying to backstab the trio.
Or front stab.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
It's stabs all around, really.
Let's talk about Young One first. I know he's closer to the bottom of the list, but, like, he is important because he overshadows the whole story. This is the pilot that killed Zotian's sister. And, I mean, like, he is very useful because he is introduced in Act 1 solely to, like, act as Zotian's like motivator to get her into the main plot of the story, and also kind of typifies everything that is terrible about this society. Like he is introduced as like being like really handsome and kind and charming, and like he's like, you know, seducing Zotian, and she's like, oh, is this can't be the same guy who you know, murdered my sister. He seems so nice. And like he has like these he like asks about her, and he's like, oh, you know, you're like no other girl that I've met before. And like he does all this very charming you know, what's the pickup artist shit essentially. And then when she realizes that like they have to go fight, like they're about to fuck, and she's like, oh, this will be all right. And then the alarm goes off, and he's like, sorry, and he like duct tapes her mouth shut and forces her to get into the pilot's chair
to get in the robot Shinji.
Yeah, except like so much worse. And then she decides to murder him, and she like goes through his memories and sees that he does that shit to every single woman that he's, you know, killed in the Nine-Tailed Fox, and then she kills him, and it's pretty cool.
Listen, Yagwan sucks, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
I love a systematic king.
Listen.
I love the efficiency with which he does this. Because she was going through his memories, and it's verbatim the same shit he used on her. And she's like, oh my God. And I'm just sitting here, I'm like, listen, horrible, criminal, right? Awful. But he had his lines down.
Listen,
I can respect it.
I respect a routine. If I was a terrible misogynist mech pilot, I would be doing the same thing.
Yeah, because there's nothing worse than inventive misogyny. You
know? No. You stick to a rule book. I like boring and predictable. That's what I like about Young One. Glad he died horribly.
I also really love that. So we get introduced to Yizhi, and he's very like, he's like a painting of a boy. You know what I mean? Like, he's very, first of all, Zetian found him meditating, and her first instinct was that he was so pretty she attacked him. And amazing. And he was like, I'll be back for this. And for 3 years, every month, he would come visit her. But I like that as soon as she was like, I'm enlisting in the army, I'm going to kill this bitch, and then I'm going to die, and it's going to be fine, because at least he will be dead. Fuck that guy, he killed my sister. And, like, yes, he's just like, oh my god, no, I'm going to marry you, I'm going to take you away from this, we don't have to do this. But the other thing I like that he says is, we'll find some other way to kill him.
Yeah, no, like, that hints at his, like, dark underside. He's like, no, I know people.
I'm wealthy.
I'm rich. Zosha, you don't understand. I'm a rich person. My world is different.
Rip to an organized legend. He served as an excellent set of purposes. Mm-hmm. Speaking of Yizhi's riches, let's talk about his dad, Gaoku, I think.
Gaucha, I think.
Gaucha.
But like, yeah. I mean, he sucks. He, like, sucks ass. He, like you said, you know, like, gross media mogul who likes to exploit young women. Like, ugh.
Okay, there's a very specific Gaucho line that I want to talk about, or a very specific exchange he has with Zetian, because I had to, like, take a breath. I had to take a second. And it was when he has her in his office, and, like, his whole leverage is he wants her to read their contract aloud on video, stripped nude. And Zetian is sitting there, and she's, like, trying to get out of it. She's like, I don't want to do this. This is very uncomfortable. This is making me, like, I hate this. This is bad. And eventually, she does come to the realization that, like, oh no, he's trying to shame me. That's his weapon. He wants to use shame to get me to comply. And even though she stops herself from feeling ashamed about her body, she still is like, but it's still wrong that he's trying to do this to me. And the fucked up thing he says to her is when she's just like, I'm a virgin. Like, I don't understand why you're trying to shame me. I haven't fucked your son. I haven't fucked the pilot I'm supposed to be marrying. I haven't done anything. So I don't understand why you're trying to brand me a whore and use it against me. And he says, oh, you haven't slept with them? That's worse. Motherfucker. Aaron, what is a bitch supposed to do in this world? If you don't put out, that's worse than being a whore, but being a whore is bad? Like, what? I've heard that shit.
Exactly, right? That's the thing, is that, like, it's terrible, but it's also like, oh yeah, that's just how people are sometimes to women.
Go to a high school.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe not anymore, but I used to sit in rooms where we would shame other girls for putting out or for not putting out. There was not a concrete railroad. There was not a set of rules in which we were like, Madonna or whore. Like, there's two same things, virgin or whore. Like, there was no guideline in which a person was of an acceptable sexuality. You were just always judged, and it's the worst when other women do to each other. But it sucks even more when it's a person in a position of power over you. And man, it made me so mad. I don't know if you can tell. Every 5 minutes, like, it felt like just like the fourth wall was broken and somebody was looking at me dead in the eye and going, hey, some fucked shit, isn't it?
Well, like,
you wish this was fiction.
Exactly, right? Like, he even says, like, what she asks, like, Gaucho, why do you hate women so much? And he's like, don't be ridiculous. The world wouldn't function without women, who would bear our children, make our meals, sew our clothes, warm our beds, and so much more. Please. Nobody in this world hates women in general. They just hate the ones who won't listen, who think they can break the rules and get away with it.
Which is just code for I hate women. I like the purpose that this system makes women serve.
Right? That's the thing. When you ask, what's a bitch to do? The answer is submit. Right? And that's patriarchy, baby.
Or my dead fucking body.
Exactly, right? That's the whole purpose of this book.
I've gone ape shit. I am post-snapping Zetian, which is a conversation we had in DMs, because you were very surprised by my very strong reaction to this book.
Yeah, I didn't think you would like it this much.
Well, it's because you've only met me post-snap.
Yeah, no, your hair has always been bleached white and flames have been coming off of your body as long as I've known you. I never met you before Frieza, yeah.
Oh, I was very submissive. I was a doormat. I was very submissive. I was very like, you could do anything to me basically the first 20 years of my life. And then somewhere like late college, I was like, actually, I think I'm going to do violence now. I've been like this ever since.
Yeah. So.
Sima Yi and, Anlushan is like a villain, right? Like flat out a villain.
So Anlushan's the mean general and Sima Yi is the good general that turns on them, right?
Quote unquote good until they outlive their use. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That Sima Yi is the one that hurt the most for me. I was like, oh no, I can't believe he's the one who betrayed them but like of course he was because that's how stories work. But like I really like because he was the one who made Zotian and Shiming do like skating drills and like I thought that was really cute.
Yeah, Sima Yi hurt more than Ma Shuying because Ma Shuying I smelled. I knew that bitch was gonna turn. But Sima Yi, I was like, I think he would also be in camp would kill you, would feel bad about it, but apparently not that bad about it. So.
No, listen, once you get a certain level of paycheck from the government, it's like, yeah, I guess. It's fine.
Right. And how did you feel about Dugu Cello, our mean queen? Our prom queen?
I mean, I love a mean woman. This is known.
This is known.
And I just like at first I was like, wow, I can't believe she's being so mean to Zotian. But I don't remember what the turning point is, but I know that she turns around and like starts becoming like saves them in the end.
It's when Ma Shuying convinces Zotian to move her family to the nice city, and Duguchel is just like, this is gonna bite you in the ass in the end. And then when it does bite Zotian in the ass, she's like, well, here it is, biting me in the ass.
My ass, it's in pain. Yeah, no, that's a good. Yes, because her terrible family, Shuying is like, yeah, you got to give everybody a chance. And I was like, yeah, this is working for me because I would also absolutely fall for this. And like, I do love that Chilo is just like, no, don't listen. There's a reason that you volunteered for this. Don't be the fucking pushover. And I love that. She's great.
The Heavenly Council are just guys, right? Like, there's no way they're not just dudes, right?
My prediction is that they're space Britons.
Interesting.
Right, just because, again, to draw the Poppy War comparison, like the big bag in the Poppy War is the British Empire, right? And I mean, right, there's already the Mongols in the universe of Iron Widow, right? And they're not evil. So then the next big existential threat for China is, of course, colonization. So... I suspect that they are... actually, they might not be space Britons. They're probably space Americans also.
Maybe. I really don't think they're white people. I think they're just dudes. Because, I mean, if we're talking about systems of oppression, colonization's a pretty big one, huh?
Yeah.
But, and we have had some touches with colonization, but, like, I don't know, the Heavenly Council... I don't know. Maybe it is. Interesting. That's a new seed that's been planted in my head. But there's no way they're gods, is what I'm saying. Like, these are definitely just dudes.
No. I mean, I didn't think about that until you wrote in the outline, but, like, no, that makes much more sense, right?
Well, because gods don't write ransom notes.
Exactly. Right, yeah.
Why would a... Or what was it? I started thinking of a quote, and it was like, oh, what drama am I thinking of this? Because the quote is, gods don't bleed. And I'm like, oh, what metal fucking thing? Road to El Dorado.
Road to El Dorado fucked, though. That's a complicated, problematic, but, back in 2001, great flick.
We watched The Prince of Egypt last night for Passover in one of my Discord channels, and... early 2000s DreamWorks was metal as hell, is all I have to say. I miss that shit. Late 90s, early 2000s DreamWorks, there's some metal shit going on.
Yeah, they're all white people in Prince of Egypt, but, like, great music.
I do find you can really hear Steve Martin and Martin Short
Yes.
now that I know.
Yes, the two priests. Yeah, no, that was like
And Sandy Bullock.
yeah, yeah. That was like the fourth Bible Boys that we ever did was on Prince of Egypt. If you want to check that out, but yeah, no. Maybe that's because I have fucking I hate England brain because of
Rightfully so.
reasons, but I just think that like if we are going to follow these themes of colonization, right, and people who have been people who are colonizers oppressing other people, I think it makes sense for the Heavenly Council to be some form of oppressive force back on Earth, because it seems like Earth does exist in this universe. So we'll figure that out next year. But I wonder if we can transition from this into one of my talking points, which is like, so there are a couple of things that didn't work for me in this book. They're pretty minor, but this is one of them, which is like the ending is very abrupt, I felt, right? Like, and I think the reason for that is that the publisher was like, hey, we'll buy this book, but we need it to be a trilogy. So I think Xiran Jay Zhao was like, okay, I'll just, they did what I would have done in this case, which is like write, a couple thousand words to just tack there onto the end and be like, okay, let me draw these threads from here, and now there's aliens, and like, what, completely fine. Right, it didn't work for me especially much. I would much have preferred a one shot where Shiming dies and there's stakes. But like, it's fine. It's completely fine. It's just I had wished maybe a little bit more exploration into that. I don't know. How did you feel about the ending?
It reminded me a lot of Ender's Game, which is a pretty good book as far as I remember, written by a really terrible person. And in the sense that, like, that was the big twist in Ender's Game, right? It was like, you're playing a video game to get tested for the military, but it's actually the real war. Ooh. Mm-hmm. And you destroyed all these aliens. Oh, no. And the aliens are actually the good guys. Oh! Like, it felt like that. But I agree with you in the sense that I thought it was rushed. But the twist, considering... I think that Pacific Rim is like one of the best comparisons you could draw for the Iron Widow, because subtlety is not a thing. The robots are powered by love. All the emotions are really big. It's all kind of ridiculous in like a fun way. We keep drawing comparisons to the Poppy War. The Poppy War was a book about war. Iron Widow was almost a workplace comedy happening during a war. So, having the ending be that sudden, I mean, like, yeah, it was sudden, but I wasn't, it felt appropriate to the tone of the book.
Yes, I think that's fair, right? It wasn't like a whiplash, it wasn't entirely out of left field, and it was set up well enough that like it's kind of a minor nitpick. The other thing that didn't work for me, I guess, is like the big dragon emperor, like again set up in beginning with In Young One's like room, and I was like, oh, that's gonna come back later, obviously, like because he just straight up says like, yeah, no, he had the most powerful mech ever, and nobody could nobody ever found it again. I was like, okay, that's gonna. That they're putting the big fucking dragon up on the wall, and it was fine. But it was just I thought it was a little Deus Ex Machina, like literally like a god machine showing up and solving your problems. But again, it's fine. The biggest criticism I actually have is just that Shiming, right? It's revealed that he is an alcoholic. That's one of his big problems in the beginning of the book, is that like he, Zotian doesn't like him because like he's got all these alcohol bottles all over his room, and like he can't really function without alcohol. And she's like, wow, I hate this guy so much. He gets drunk and kills women in his robot. And it's revealed that the military has been making him drink, like forcing him to drink alcohol, like putting a funnel in his mouth and making him drink alcohol, and that's how he got addicted. And I think that's a little it's a little bit of a cop out. I feel like it would make him a much more interesting character if like he, just because of his trauma and, you know, the hardships that he faced in his life, you know, became an alcoholic, because I think that would, you know, that actually lends you know, I don't want to say like it's his fault, right, because alcoholism is disease, but like when you just say like, oh, the government made you have an addiction, like I feel like that's a little bit I feel like that's less interesting than if the addiction just happened like it does in the real world.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It did feel quite, I think it would have been one thing if he started drinking on his own and then was starting to recover, and then they force-fed him more alcohol to get him to relapse. Mm-hmm. I think it would have done the same thing, but still had him be the initiator of his vices.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. It was a little bit, again, like there were just portions of this book that it does feel like the publisher really interrupted something that was maybe longer, and some threads had to be kind of rewoven in different ways. Because I felt like that about the ending. I felt like that about this. The Emperor thing too, like it felt like something that could have come later, but had to come now to give like some impetus to the start of the second book. Yeah, but I agree with you. Like these are all relatively minor things, but they do stick out.
Yeah, but again, that's the thing. Like, I think that, you know, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to criticize, you know, choices or characters in any media, right? That's why we do this podcast, is to talk about choices and, you know, examine why they do and don't work for us, and maybe why they work in the story. And that's one thing I was wondering is like, do you think that this is just because of the genre of YA, that like these things are, you know, maybe they feel rushed to us, maybe they feel like they could have been a little bit more nuanced, but like because of the genre that this book is written, you know, maybe it's more excusable. Or like we were talking about, like, do you think that like the cartoonishness of this book in something, maybe not cartoonishness, but like they were talking about big feelings, maybe like the big elements in this book, like do you think that's why like all these big swings are fine? You know, I'm just wondering if like it's a taste thing, I guess. Like I don't consume that much YA media, and I'm just wondering if like maybe I'm coming at it from my very particular lens.
I think it is definitely a taste thing. This has been as much as you loving mean women, this has also been a theme. I am much more open to things geared at younger audiences. Maybe, I don't know, because I worked in animation, maybe I honestly just probably have worse taste.
I don't think that's true. I do a whole other podcast that's watching terrible media, so
that's true. But yeah, I think it is a taste thing. I think you have always skewed towards more nuanced, more complicated, more mature types of media.
The reason I like Poppy War more than this is because there were more tactical battles, is the actual answer.
Yeah, because you're a fucking chess nerd.
Because I love chess and I love real-time strategy games is the problem with me.
Yeah, this is a Civ 6, motherfucker. Like, let's not... Meanwhile, I am currently recording this podcast in kitty ear headphones.
That's true. Yeah, but like, you know, I was trying to get into, you know, big feelings, cartoonishness, because of this thing we talked about in our DMs, which is like, you know, there sometimes Zotian just spells it out for the reader, and it's like, oh, huh, when you put it that way.
Yeah, she does, and I love that about her. Like, there's, I also really like, Zotian really gets at the core of how I find a lot of young, I'm going to say young women, because I'm saying people raised as women, like before we, you know, whether or not we decide that label no longer applies, that a lot of like girls and young women go through, which is when you start asking why, people don't tend to like that. You know, there's always questions of like, oh, well, you're supposed to look a certain way. And I'll just go, why? And it's like, because you're supposed to. Okay, but why? Well, because you're just supposed to be pleasing to men. Okay, but why? why does it fucking matter if a dude looks at me and goes, yeah, I'd put a baby in that? Like, why? And nobody ever had a good answer for me. And then the opposite thing is, you know, when, for example, I can't even think of anything, but like anything I would use to rebel or anything I do for my own well-being or any way I try to live my life, I usually have a concrete reason. So when people ask me like, well, why are you doing this? I can tell you why I'm doing it because I've thought about it. And Zetian does the same thing. She spells that out. She's like, you have to just keep asking why. And do I have a quote? Yeah. So she literally says, how did I not ask that crucial wait, why for so long? And that is the thing. Like, you get taught not to ask why. You get taught just to kind of be. And I think that's why this is actually a good transition for talking about the way the mechs are structured in terms of being like a very accurate parallel for patriarchy, because when she's talking to Yizhi's dad, I think, when she's talking to An Lushan about the fact that the girl seats are just made to be batteries for the boy pilots, basically he says that the boys are afraid, and that's why it has to be this way. They're afraid of dying at battle. And she says, you don't think girls are afraid? And he says, girls know how to sacrifice.
Yeah.
And so the way that there's yin and yang seats, and unfortunately I've forgotten which one's which in terms of the masculine.
Yin is for women, I think, and yang is for men, because like yin is cold and like yang is hot.
So, but you know, when you look at that symbol, there's a dot of one in the other, right? Always. And that's how their armor is coded as well. Mm-hmm. Like, their padding is the opposite color of whatever the color that they're assigned to is. So it's like white with black elbow and knee guards, or black with white elbow and knee guards. And the thing about Zetian is that she also has this moment of like, well, what if I don't want to have a baby? Like, what if I don't want to do all these feminine things? I just want to be. Is that fucking cool with y'all? Like, I just want to be a person. I don't relate to the conventions of femininity all the time. And, you know, she starts asking these questions of like, okay, well, one, why do the girls have to do all this fuck shit? And two, the thing is that, you know, they're always taught that that's how the robots are built. But again, you go back to that thing of asking why were the robots built that way? And it's because the boys are afraid. So it's this Ouroboros of misogyny reinforcing misogyny and just eating itself for the rest of time, when in reality, gender has nothing to do with the power that gives the robots, well, that gives everything life, but that powers the robots also. So, like, I don't know. I just found it very, like, I think a lot of the stuff that reinforces, and we hear this a lot in the West, right? The thing that reinforces a lot of misogyny is quote unquote tradition. And I really liked seeing tradition kind of turned on its head here. Being like, yes, sure, masculine energy, feminine energy, but why does it have to be such a strict assignment if even in the traditional ideology, there's a little bit of one in the other? I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm just mad.
No. I mean, I think you're completely right. Like, the book starts out with them learning about a butterfly that starts as one gender and then can turn into another, right? And the whole book, like, is about... you know, or not, maybe isn't about, but like has these themes of like transitioning and like, you know, destroying gender roles, and not just gender roles, but like you know, romantic roles too. We're about to talk about the love triangle, but like, this is a book that's like, the way that we have done things has been bad and has led to death and suffering. And why shouldn't we obliterate it all? It's a very Gen Z book in that way, and I in the best way I mean that. Right, it's got lots of big emotions and is trying to talk about big problems in the world, and sees only one solution, which is to tear down the rotten foundation. And you know, maybe we should start seeing more fiction and real world actions like that. Hard to say.
Well, there's an interesting parallel too. So I was watching. I love to watch YouTube content on bad people. I don't know why. But there is something interesting I've picked up on in recent years. And I was watching a video on fucking Matt Gaetz of all people.
Oh, good.
Yeah, fuck that guy. Which is a hearty fuck you at that guy. But basically, I learned that his mother it was recommended that she terminate her pregnancy because she was in danger, and she's actually in a wheelchair because of the way his little sister was born. And the way he phrases it is that his family let God decide. And I hear that rhetoric a lot, especially, I don't know if you probably heard it in your upbringing.
Yeah.
To put things in the hands of God. But it's one of those things of like, you know, the girls in this book are dying preventable deaths. And I hear that kind of rhetoric a lot in terms of like women dying of preventable diseases, women dying in childbirth, because you're putting the decision in the hands of God. But another very interesting thing that Zetian says, and again, a lot of this is really Zetian just breaking the fourth wall and looking right at you and going, hey, fucker. Don't you think? But she says, do you know how karma really works, Sherman? I snarl. It's not something that can be prayed into existence or counted on to fall from the sky. It has to be hand-delivered. And in terms of, like, spiritual beliefs and in terms of just, like, the way I operate, personally speaking, like, in terms of also spirituality, a lot of people, and again, I think you could speak to this better than I, but sometimes they will take things like spirituality or a system or the hand of God as permission to be passive, when in fact, your religious system, if you actually look at the text, encourages you to take action in order to, quote unquote, like, spread the action of God or Christ yourself and to be, you know, a good neighbor or whatever. Like, you have to take an active participation in not only preserving yourself, but preserving your neighbors. But people like to instead be like, no, God will take care of that for me. You know, Jesus, take the wheel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, 100%. And like, yeah, I'm just very grateful that this book interrogates those sort of things and is trying to, you know, instill the idea that like we do not always have to exist in the world the way that it has been, even, you know, there's that famous Lagan quote, right? You know, capitalism seems, permanent, but like, so did the divine right of kings. Like, I feel like we should really have more energy like that in the world. And similarly, I think that we should have more examples of like, quote unquote, non-standard relationships. That's why I was so thrilled about the love triangle in this book, right?
Literal.
Right. Not just, two people pining after one person and forcing them to choose, but like everybody fucks everyone. And like, I'm a person that probably would not ever, thrive in a polyamorous relationship. I'm too much of a wife guy. Thank you for reinforcing that, Leyla. Leyla is shaking her head at me behind the camera. But yeah, no, I like my wife quite a lot. But I think it is so, this is a New York Times bestseller, right? Like presumably 1 million kids have read this and been like, wait, what? we could just do that. And like, listen, maybe teens probably shouldn't be getting into poly relationships. I don't know. Maybe get practice on the one before you all go out and do that. But like, I think it's really cool that we're instilling ideas of non-monogamy into young people, because like, why not?
That is the quote that's going to get picked up by fucking Breitbart.
Yep, I can see the protesters forming outside my apartment window as we speak. Good. Yeah. No, I just think it's neat. I think that we should, we should not have so much dependence on like two people being together, right? I think it's all about having an open conversation in good faith about what kind of shit you want out of your relationship, and that's what happens in this book. And I hope that more young people, read this book and are like, yeah, neat.
Yeah, it was really funny when the boys were about to kiss in the kitchen, and they're both looking at Zetian, and she's just staring at them, and she's like, kiss. And she puts her hands up in the shape of a triangle. I was like, this rules. She's just like, yeah, make out. I don't give a fuck. And to pull another quote, again, just very funny shit happens in this book. If this were any other occasion, I'd be laughing. Perks of refusing to play by the rules. You don't have to choose between the boy who'd torture a man to death with you and the boy who'd welcome you back home with pastries after.
And for the record, the boy making pastries is Shimming.
No, it was Yizhi.
Oh, was it?
Shimming was the one torturing... Was it Tian?
Oh, okay. I don't remember.
I just read the book today.
Yeah, no, I believe you. I just I thought it was Shimming. I thought that was much funnier, but it's...
You know, listen, they can both learn how to bake. They can take turns. It's all good.
That's gender roles.
I did have a poly panic reading this book where I was just like, could I do that? And then no. I am no.
Not for you.
Couldn't be me. I support it. That being said, friends of mine out there, people who know me personally, if you motherfuckers enter a polycule, like for example, when holidays run around, I do, I get Aaron's wife gifts nowadays because, we're close enough friends that, and also, Aaron's wife and I are buds. But, I get them both gifts. If you motherfuckers enter a polycule, only you are getting a gift. Do you fucking hear me? I am not supporting your whole fucking polycule. It is not happening. I'm not dealing with what happens when I pick a favorite in your polycule. Lord knows I am an excellent gift giver. I am not dealing with the jealousy of the rest of your polycule. It's not happening. It will just be you. You can do the work of providing me with your polycule's fucking dietary restrictions, and you will get a tin of home-baked cookies from me. And I want you to be prepared for that to be the whole fucking holiday season. I am not doing gifts for an entire multifamily home. I think that's very fair.
If you're fucking an entire American baseball team, like, listen, you can get the store-bought cookies. It's fine.
Anyway, thanks for the excellent book. I had a great time.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you liked it so much. I think this is the first recommendation that you've really, really been so passionate about. So I'm very, very glad that this one really.
Well, it makes me feel bad. I put you through 3 games worth of bullshit before.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna get you back eventually. One of these days, I am gonna make you play like a fucking Total War, and you're like, wow, I shouldn't hang out with this guy.
No, I think, listen, if our Christmas game of Catan was any indicator.
Yeah, actually, no, I did. Yeah, that's fair. Maybe that is. That's not true. That Catan game was like 2 hours long. Xenosaga was like 15 hours long.
I'm saying I quite enjoyed our game of Catan.
Oh, okay, good. Well.
Especially the one I won.
Yeah, no, listen.
It got very violent. It got very tense.
Yeah, no, Catan's a fucking aggro game.
Great.
God, excellent. Leyla, when we are not just having a lot of big feelings about board games and patriarchy, where can people find us on the internet?
You can find me at LEYLSES on Tumblr, Twitter, and Instagram. I'm kind of drawing, which is neat. I don't think I've written anything recently. I guess I might later. Aaron, where can people find you?
Find me on Twitter at AaronSXL, where I tweet about tabletop RPGs, health policy, and writing stuff. The other podcast I do is at The Bible Boys, where me and my 2 ex-evangelical friends talk about Christian media. We're going to talk about the superhero movie Constantine this week. That's a Josh pick. No idea how that's going to go.
Sounds like a Josh pick.
Yeah. So, I mean, to be fair, the last week was the Passion of the fucking Christ, so I think it can't statistically be worse than that. If that's your thing this Easter season, check us out. Our theme song is Obsolete by Keshko from the album Filmmakers Reference Kit Volume 2. You can find more of their music at keshko.bandcamp.com. Leyla, how shall we send off Iron Widow?
Well, Aaron, I know we just talked about the great media transgressions I've done against you, but I just want to remind you, you can't shoot me, I'm Central Command.
and you can't shoot me. I'm rich. We'll see you all next week.